Plants, the green frontier. These are the discussions of the podcast Horticult. Its continuing mission to talk about strange new cultivars, to seek out new flowers and plant them, to boldly garden like no one has before.
What's up? This is Blaine from the Horticult, everybody. How y'all doing? Today's episode on the podcast, I'm going to talk about a little project I'm wanting to do and the steps that I need to follow to do it. I want to flip my strip, and that is a park strip. I don't know if everyone has a park strip, but this is this little space between the sidewalk and the road that is grass typically, or there's a space that's the city's domain, but the homeowner maintains it. It's where all the public utilities go, so the water connection and stuff like that, it's in the park strip. Usually it's grass. We don't like grass here. We want to make it more, how do you say, environmentally friendly, waterwise-y. I made a list. Flip your strip steps. Numero uno, kill the grass. And you can do it in two ways. The way that I chose to do mine is by stop watering it. But I am going to have to do a little bit of spray because of the weeds. They're still green and the rest of my grass is brown. So I'm going to have to use some sort of grass killer. You could use Roundup because it's a non-select. Kills everything, non-select herbicide. Or there is a grass killer. You could use weeds that are grass. So I need to go in and just kill them all, and I'll probably use some Roundup. I'll wear a respirator and a full hazmat suit. Step 2, remove the grass. So the other thing you could do with that part of it is take a sod cutter and cut it out. Like, you don't need to kill it all. You could just remove it. I think that's a bigger step to do than just to kill it, and then you can use that layer almost as another layer of mulch. The root system and stuff, because it's hard for weeds to come and penetrate through that sod layer. Remove the grass in the top, the actual blades of grass, by killing it and blowing and flamethrowering it. Then you have that little sod root layer that I'm going to leave on mine and see how that goes. So that's 2, is remove the grass. So flamethrower or sod cutter. Number 3, I'm going to cut about a 4-inch wedge from the curb into the grass to kind of give it a lip. So when I lay my mulch, it can go from almost like a berm or a pile to a nice smooth to my sidewalk. So it's like a little trench all the way around. If you remove the sod with the sod cutter, then you don't need to do this because you already have a couple inches to work with. But since I'm leaving it there, I'm just going to do a little wedge around it, and so it kind of has a place for the water to collect when it rains. The water has washed away my mulch, so if I create that wedge, it'll stay there and stick. Then I need to go through and find all the sprinklers and cap them. So that's number 4, is cap the sprinkler system and install the pressure reducer. So they have a pressure reducer conversion kits that will tap right into where a sprinkler is, and that will reduce that line, which you need to do if you're using drip, which I'm going to do. So the other option would be to use micro sprays, which I do not believe they require a pressure reducer. I'm going to dig out all my sprinklers. I'm going to remove the sprinklers off, and then there's these little caps that are the same size as the sprinkler to twist on top of those, and then I'll bury those. And so if for some reason I need to go back to the old system, it's a very easy flip. One conversion kit for one sprinkler head so you can actually plug in the drip irrigation. So you just do it in one of the farthest corners, and you do one in the other farthest corner. I have basically a rectangle shape, so I could put one in the top corner and one in the bottom corner, and it'll create that loop. And you do that because if there's a puncture, then everything will still get watered. If you only have one, then it won't fill up the rest of the tube, or it has a little pressure around the whole thing. But if it has one coming from the other side, it's rushing in from both sides. You might have a hole, but you're not going to not water plants. So that's what I'm going to do. And then I'm going to, and then number 5 is install the drip grid. So most drip irrigation, like Netafim, how far those emitters are where it drips is how far you want the next grid line to be. So if you're doing a long line, say it's 20 feet long, and each emitter is 6 inches away from each other on the drip line, then you need to create the next layer or the next line of drip to be 6 inches away. From the middle, diameter 6 inches, the radius is going to be 3 inches. So you need the next drip line to be 6 inches away from the middle. So you have 3 and 3, 6. Okay, so that works. You know what I'm saying, Vern? So you got to go off of the radius, not the diameter of the drip. Drippity drip drip. And number 6 is pick your plants. That's when you can pick your plants, and this is the fun part. Picking your plants, being perennial, play with colors and textures and line weight. I mean, I say line weight, but it's really texture. I guess I describe it. The thickness of the leaves. You have a lot of fine leaf things, and you can have some heavier, fatter leaf things, and kind of blend those together. Highlight color. What's your favorite color? Make that one of your primary spots that you see. Pulling into your driveway, have that on the end. You want that big blast of red, have it where you can see it. Motion, wind blowing it and having it go down the line. So if you have, like, a park strip is just right next to the sidewalk, so it's a straight line. So if you have grasses and the wind comes and pushes them and you can see it waving, so that's cool. That's what I like. But you want to mix in layers, so ground covers on the bottom. Then you got your herbaceous flowering things, or maybe even some low junipers. I didn't find that the bird nest spruce did well in a xeric, low water environment. They all died. They had issues because they need a lot of water. Spruces require more water. The ones that I found to do better success was with the pines. So there was a little dwarf Scotch pines, and then there was some Mugo pines. Mugo pines are I think they're a little overplanted, but I really like those little Scotch pines. I think that's what they were. But pines for sure are somehow, they are just more adaptable to it. And then you get in the grasses and shrubs. I'm thinking you could have flowering shrubs or you could have fruiting shrubs. I'm probably going to try to incorporate some sort of serviceberry or even like elderberry. But elderberries are a little hard. You can't pick it and eat it off the plant. You have to like process it a little bit. You can make some elderberry jam or something like that. Yeah, there's so many though. But that's what I'm going to try to implement into my landscape is some fruiting shrubs. And even if you don't eat it, then maybe even the birds would like it, and you can bring birds in, native birds. And then some trees. Park Strip can't handle a whole lot of large trees, but after talking with our last guest, he was like, it's okay to have a big, tall tree. If you have a short, squatty tree, then you're not meeting the requirements of the road that it has to be so high. Because if it's hitting if you're parking next to the tree and it's hitting your roof of your car, then it's obviously not tall enough. I think he did say not to plant a tree in a park strip if it's not 8 feet wide, and mine's barely 8 feet wide, so that's a really big park strip. And then after you get that all planted in and everything, then you can go put in the mulch. So there's 2 types of mulch. It's organic or inorganic, which is basically rocks is inorganic and everything else is organic. I mean, if you really break it down, you could probably have some sort of argument whether or not rubber shaving mulch is organic or not organic. And if it's synthetic, you could say it's inorganic. But then if it's like from a rubber tree, then I think mostly it's inorganic because it doesn't break down. I think the more organic stuff breaks down. Maybe that's the difference. Maybe if it breaks down, then it would be considered organic. I wouldn't do any amendments to the soil. The plant selection should be in that you don't need to enhance the soil. If you're trying to make part of it a garden, as in like a vegetable garden, then yeah, you would need to amend it and till it and rotate some organic material into it, some compost. I'm just trying to not have grass and let there be flowering things that bees like. Maybe make it so my neighbors can't quite see into my yard as well. The mulch needs to be about 3 to 4 inches deep. You could use just straight compost for that and just add compost every year. Or I plan on probably just doing a bark mulch and letting it break down into the soil and then adding more bark mulch. Maybe once a year, refreshing it and checking it. So that's it. Flip your strip. It's totally doable. And this is stuff that you could do yourself very easily. It doesn't require any machinery except maybe a shovel and having a basic understanding of your irrigation system. There you go. That's what I'm going to do. This is my next project. So I'm going to rip it out and I'll put out some videos on that on the YouTube. We'll have Brad later this week, and we'll have some more topics to talk about and see what he's doing in the greenhouse. And then after that, we will have a guest. And so we're going to try to do a YouTube live stream with our guest then. I think YouTube is probably where I'm going to post most of my stuff. Hey, thanks for listening. Catch you next time. Bye.